it was absolutely awesome. But I then entered into higher education. I've been in higher education for almost 20 years. Started off at Payne College, started off as their retention coordinator. And then from there, I spent about 5 years as a retention coordinator. And then I went into career services. I was there for almost about 5 or 6 years in career services at Payne College. And then let me also say that we also started a church, myself and my wife, some years ago. We will be celebrating actually 25 years from having started that church this weekend. So we got a lot going on. And having pastored there, I've worked with many people who've been in many different occupations, being able to, again, counsel them spiritually. But going back to the higher education, then I came over to Augusta University. Been here at Augusta University ever since in career services. And we work with a career development model. We work with preparing our students for the career opportunities. So we work with resumes, cover letters, teaching them how to do CVs, mock interviews. We work with them in how to find internships, how to do job shadows, working with volunteer experience, how to do professional dress, networking, researching companies, things of that nature that will prepare them to be ready for that professional opportunity. So we work more so on the front end, and that's what I bring to the table here today.
Dr. Middleton?
Okay. Good morning. I am Dr. Cordero Middleton. I am a principal at Richmond Hill K-8 in the Richmond County School System. I have been in education going on 11 years. In administration, I have been an administrator for 5 of those years. And one thing that I bring to the table, just last year, I opened up a brand new school. I pretty much helped build the school with picking out colors and furniture and so forth. And I had to hire my entire staff. So that's a staff of about 100 individuals. It started with just myself and the secretary, and I ended up having a staff of about 100 currently hired under my leadership. So through a pandemic, that's a lot of interviewing that had to take place in order to hire all those individuals.
Sergeant Justin?
Hey, how you guys doing? Good morning. I'm Sergeant Justin Johnson. I've been in the military 6 years. I just got brought on as Georgia Army National Guard Recruiting and Retention NCO. I currently hold a position at Augusta State University where I work with the Army ROTC program. Previous to that, I worked with the United States Postal Service for 3 years. My expertise, I love dealing with the youth because I'm able to relate a lot. I'm from the Washington County area. I just moved to Augusta, but while I was in the Washington County area, I did a lot of volunteer mentorship program with the Boys and Girls Club. I'm a youth minister back in my church back home, so I ran a lot of boys to men program. I'm also wear a lot of hats. I officiate high school basketball on the side due to me previously playing college basketball for 4 years at Coastal Georgia in Brunswick. I have a passion just for youth and just reaching out and just, mentorship and just doing whatever I can to just make the world a better place for us Black men.
Well, thank you, panelists, for that introduction. Let's just get into the sauce of questions. And so the first question I have is, and we'll start with Calvin. You can, we'll go around the room again. What impact has the global pandemic had on jobs? And how has the pandemic changed the interview and recruitment process?
Well, I'm retired. And before I retired, we conducted most of our interviews through technology. We set up panels pretty much like we have this morning. We didn't have the video aspect of it, but they were all teleconferences. What we did was we combed through hundreds of resumes for positions, found the candidates that we thought would be best for that position based on their qualifications. Then we set up the teleconferences. Now, I worked for a lady that was very much into social media. So while we would, let's say if I'm interviewing you right now, you're looking at me or you're talking to me, answering questions that I prepared for you, she would be going all through your social media pages. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the best candidate possible to bring into the team that you already have. And the last thing you want to do is bring in somebody that's will not fit into your team. Now, true, everybody on the team does not have to be exactly the same, but they do have to have the same common beliefs, the same common thoughts, have the same common qualifications, because a job requires certain abilities, and if that person can't provide those abilities, then that's one thing. But if that person comes to the team with the idea that they don't need to learn or they are above questioning, then that also will poison your team. So I haven't had to hire anybody during this pandemic, but as I said, before the pandemic started, we were already moving towards telecommunication, because a person applying for a job and I was responsible for jobs for stations in 3 different states. Those people would be applying for a job in Montgomery, but they might be coming from somewhere in Washington State. So we used the technology that's currently available. But now I would assume that you would do pretty much what we're doing now. You would set up a panel where you could address that person face to face, but know that in your background, in your social pages, they tell a lot about you.
I think another important point is look at the environment we're in now. What's the background look like around you? Why?
Right.
Because you're going to be interviewed virtually now. We're not doing the face-to-face, at least not right away. So you have to get past the screening stage like we are now. So keep in consideration, keep in thought that what does your background look like? Look at what's around you as you're preparing. Are you prepared for the meeting? Are you dressed for the meeting? Because even as you're talking, they're watching your face. You're looking right into the screen. That's what they're seeing. So keep that in mind, because you have to get past that screen too. And a lot of folks don't think about what their environment looks like. They're just getting on a Zoom meeting or getting on a presentation, but not considering what's in the background. And that's a very important piece, because that's what's around you. Your background is what's around you. So that's the biggest change for us, is doing everything virtually and being comfortable virtually. Some people get a little nervous when they're on the screen. Why? You're normally talking to people anyway. It's the same thing.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would also want to say, the first part of your question, how is a global impact, or how has the global pandemic impacted jobs? A lot of companies and organizations, it's really been tough for a lot of them. I mean, it really varies. Some companies are still doing pretty well. Other companies, it's been tough. You have some companies and organizations that have closed up as a result of the pandemic. You've got others who have downsized. Many of your smaller companies and organizations, sort of your mom and pop organizations, have really had it tough. Many of them have closed up. Some industries are still doing quite well. Well, like, for example, some of the industries that have really had it tough have been the hospitality industry. I mean, that has really, really been tough for them. Marketing is down. In accounting, they still seem to be doing pretty good based on everything we see. And construction still seems to be doing pretty well. In terms of the interview, I agree with the other panelists. We are very used to doing a one-on-one, face-to-face. But now we're telling our students that when you interview, you got to be prepared to do it virtually. And that means your preparation has to be different, because there are things that you have to consider that might be slightly different than when you were doing it in person. For example, now you got to think about your lighting. You got to think about your sound. Are you going to be in a room where it sounds like you're echoing? Are you going to be in a location where there is going to be interference, people in the background, where you may likely be interrupted? So you need to begin to think about your connection, on your computer. So there are other things that you do have to take into consideration. And then as far as recruitment, as we're talking with employers, what we're finding is that in this global pandemic, they are starting to use more things like artificial intelligence. Back in the day when I was coming along, they called it resume readers, where they would program So it would look for keywords, you know, when they're looking for certain skill sets, it would go through and it would identify those resumes that actually have those types of skill sets or competencies in it. You got employers now who are utilizing more things like virtual job fairs for our military. I just saw that, got an email saying that Hiring Our Heroes, they're going to be having an event, and that's going to be a virtual job fair. You also have employers now who are using things like virtual informational interviews, or they're coming on and doing webinars. They're doing seminars so that they can connect with students. You have employers who are using things like, for example, here at Augusta University, we have a career management system called Handshake. This allows employers to directly communicate with students. They can email the students, they can go in and look at the student's profile. You got employers who are using social media and things like LinkedIn. So you have to think about your LinkedIn profile. So yeah, this pandemic has really impacted a number of different ways. However, you can still prepare, you can still be very successful. And I think workshops like what we're doing here today should be very helpful with that.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to a couple other questions because you've also answered a couple of questions that I have. One was, what are some of the basic qualifications you look for in a potential candidate? I think you've kind of handled that. You've also handled the fact that how has technology affected the interview process? I think you've also handled that. But let me go to Dr. Middleton. What part does education and experience play in the hiring process? I understand that you hired 100 people and created a whole school. Should there be an expectation on job training?
Yes, sir. I think that is very important to make sure that whatever job that you're interviewing for, at least you have some type of common knowledge. Now, I do understand that all individuals who are interviewing may not have experience in that position, but it's always good to read up on the position, find out what the position entails, because the interviewer is looking for what do you know about the position. I just recently had an interview yesterday for a position currently at my school, but the interviewee did not know anything about the position. So it almost frowned upon of it because the interviewee didn't take enough time to actually read up on the position to tell me whether or not he or she is qualified for that position. So experience is very important. Don't get me wrong, experience is very important. But if you do not have the experience, it's always good to be able to go on and find out more about that position. Interviewers, I'm looking for somebody who is inquisitive, somebody who's innovative, somebody who's really taking the initiative to really say, hey, I'm the right person for the position. And give me the opportunity, I can really make it work.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that? Or I could go to the next question. Anybody else want to comment?
Dr. Lawson?
Yes, sir.
Oh, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes, sir. I just want to talk about the qualifications and experience that's needed when it comes to the Georgia Army National Guard and military alone. Basically, what we look for is candidates 17 years old, a junior in high school graduate, or a person who possesses a GED. The only qualifications is they take the ASVAB test, which they have to qualify and score with a score of 31. The GED, they just changed something with those applicants who have a GED and are interested. They have to score a little bit higher. But basically, all we look for is the background check. Your background check must be clean. But if you do have a felony of any sort or any type of previous law enforcement run-ins, there are waivers that can be done on our behalf to basically, whether we have to go to court to speak to the lawyer, to speak to the judge. We do those things just to help those individuals who have had the trouble past, but just want to turn it around for the good. So,
okay. Well, that's a good segue into the next question. What type of background checks do you conduct? Are background checks done before or after the interview? And how extensive are the background checks? Who wants to tackle that?
Let me start with that. To check the backgrounds of people, when you sit down and write your resume, on your resume, you're putting all the experiences that you have, all the college and all of that stuff, all the jobs that you've done and the things that you did in those jobs. Be truthful. There is nothing worse than to submit an application or submit a resume that's easily that your untruths are easily fact checked. Be truthful, tell the truth, because we're going to do, or you're going to do reference checks. And if you write in your resume that you're you're on the right hand of God and can do all kinds of great and glorious things, but then you check with your references and your references don't uphold that, then you're automatically tossed out. And because you don't get the job that you applied for at an organization, does not mean that you can't apply for another job at that organization. And if you lied on the first resume, 9 times out of 10, somebody is going to remember that. And you'll be labeled as dishonest. And who wants to bring a dishonest person into their organization?
Well, again, go ahead.
Yeah. One of the questions that has come up to me in the past that's not directly this question, but it may be in the field, in the family. And that is, I've had persons to ask me, what if you have a blemish in your background, that perhaps you have been arrested or there has been something? How does that work for you? How do you handle that if you're invited in, let's say even for an interview? And one of the things that I would just share with the audience is that number one, if they invite you for an interview, that's great, because they see some things that they like, and they want to hear from you. They want to get a chance to see you in person, see how you handle yourself. Number two, I share with them, be honest, because they already know. Right. It's either going to be on the application or they've looked at it. So you want to come in and basically own it. Don't dodge it. This is something that happened. But here's the most important thing. If you can share with them, here is what I learned from the experience that I've gone through. And here is how I have grown as a result. And they can begin to look at how you didn't let that moment stop you, but the initiatives and the things that you have done to grow beyond what happened to you. That can be very impressive to an employer. And then you've shown them integrity, you've shown them initiative, and that can go a long way. And Dr. Lawrence, if I can say one other thing real quick. On that qualification question, the only other thing that I would add when you were saying what are some of the basic qualifications, we are part of the National Association of Colleges and Employers, better known as NACE. And they basically interview employees across the country to find out what qualities or competencies, skills do they look for in recent graduates to consider them career ready. And one of the things that I would share with your audience, and we share with our students all the time, think about things like, because these employers indicated things like the ability to communicate is extremely important for them in writing and also verbally. Leadership skills, your ability to problem solve and to think critically, your ability to work in a team and be able to collaborate with others, your ability to be able to multitask, professionalism. So I would just say to your audience, look for opportunities where you can develop those skills, because those are things that you can actually indicate and show those things on your resume, where you have the opportunity to do some problem solving, to do some critical thinking, to do some collaboration work. And that also can go a long way.
Well, that's a perfect segue into another question that we have. How much and what type of information should be on a resume? How many pages should a resume be? Should it be generic or specific to the position? And what are some of the major elements of a resume you look for?
I'm gonna start for the education standpoint. When I'm looking hire a teacher, one thing I'm looking is first, do you have the qualification in terms of education wise? As a teacher, you have to have a bachelor's degree, and higher education should be listed as well as your former employer, excuse me, as well as your current employer as well listed on your resume. I'm really not looking at, from my standpoint, so many bullets under each job description or duties and responsibilities that you did, but just a quick summary of exactly what you did in that current position. That way they can give me an idea of how you did it. But then also I'm looking at, did you list your reference, your current employer's reference?
Mhm.
Sometimes I frown upon when individuals do not list their current employer reference on their resume, or even I call and ask about a reference about the current employer. Then they don't list that individual. I frown upon that because there's something that they're hiding. And as one of the brothers said earlier, be honest. It's very good to be honest. And if you all had a bad encounter with your former employer, that's okay. But it's to be honest and upfront with the person who's interviewing you first. Now, in terms of length of resume, I'm fine with a 1 to 2 page resume, nothing very long and drawn out on my end because I have to go through so much. So that's where I stand.
Right, right.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to our question and answer chat room. And I got 2 questions, and I'll just read both of them, and they're from Hezekiah Hartree. The first question is, do you feel that the ability to work technology well matters now more than ever in regards to the hiring process? And the other question he has, it's a little bit long one, but I'll read it anyway. What we are all familiar with the phrase, it's not what you know or who you know, but who knows you. With that in mind, how do we in the new socially distant society meet the people we need to meet to be successful in obtaining the support or backing of people who can open new doors for us outside of our own ability? So that's kind of a two-pronged question. Brother Fisher, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, I'll take that second question first.
All right.
In terms of networking in today's environment. And the answer to that can be LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very professional organization. Unlike a lot of the others, it's professional. And you can actually go in and make connections with folks based on commonalities. There's a lot of ways that you can sort and use it. And so I highly encourage, if you haven't become familiar with it and very fluent with it, there are lots of ways you can do sorts for specific skill sets, specific positions, specific jobs. And I encourage you to do that because by doing that, you can send notes to folks and invite them to engage in conversation with you. And then you can link with their network. And that's one of the best ways of getting that in today's environment, because you just can't get out and talk to people like you used to. I mean, I'm a salesperson. I'm used to being out face to face. One of the things I have to do is connect with people virtually. And the best tool for that right now is LinkedIn. And like I said, doing very specific searches for what you're looking for. That would be one way to link with folks.
Now, what about his first question?
I answered the second one, so now I got to go back to the first one.
Yeah, he's talking about technology. And I think we kind of touched on technology. Anybody want to, he said, do you feel that the ability to work technology well matters now more than ever in regards to the hiring process?
I'll take that.
Okay.
And I will say, I think it's very important to make sure that you're somewhat abreast of the technology, especially if you're utilizing Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and so forth, because it frowns upon the interviewee if the interviewer is waiting for you to log on and you can't log on, you can't hear them. So it's very important that you do sound checks, work with someone to make sure that your technology is working properly before the interview start. If your interview starts at 12 o'clock, you probably need to be on by 11:30 just to make sure everything is working properly to ensure that you're ready and fully prepared, because at the end of the day, you're the person who's trying to get the job, not the interviewer.
Right.
Okay, I got one question, and it's not a question, but an ask, and I don't think that'd be a problem. Let me just answer Darius. Darius, you asked the question, may the panel give us their email addresses at the end of the webinar? That's not a problem. I'll make sure that everybody, all the participants will get the panelists' email addresses. So Darius, the answer is yes, we will provide that to you. Okay. Next question. With the legalization of marijuana, in most states. Is drug testing still a concern? And how would a candidate find out if a company conducts drug testing?
I can I can start off, and maybe some of the other panelists jump in. That's a that's a really challenging question. There, it's no doubt about it. I would just venture to say, from my perspective, I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes is this: if you live in a state where marijuana has been legalized, there are probably not going to be a whole lot of concerns there because it's been legalized in the state. But if you're coming from a state where it's legal to a state like Georgia, where, as I understand it, it's not legal, then there may be some issues and concerns. For example, if you're trying to be hired here at Augusta University, you are going to be tested. Now, in some states where it is not legal and you're coming from a state, like let's say if in Colorado it's legal and you're coming to another state where it's not legal, if you are using marijuana for medical reasons and you can present from a medical doctor some type of documentation that says this is why you're using it, that may be sufficient, in some cases, but not necessarily in all cases. Because again, if you're coming here to work, you are going to be tested, and if it comes up positive, then that's going to be an issue.
I think you also have to take into consideration the job that you're applying for. First off, you're applying for a job, and you're not applying for that job by accident. So if you are a user recreationally, if you are a recreational user, stop until you get the job. Find out and once you're in that job, then you'll understand what the culture of that job is. If you're applying for a federal job, although states have legalized marijuana, the government actually has not. And they will not allow you to, some jobs do require your analysis. Sergeant Johnston will probably be able to tell you more about what the military now requires, but you're applying for a job. You want to put your best self forward while you're trying to get that job. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you think there may be an issue, stop, get the job. Once you get the job and make them love you in the job, then explore whatever other cultures there, the norms that the job itself entails. But you're applying for a job. You're trying to increase your livelihood. Stop. Go get the job. Then get into this other thing.
But yes, sir, I can speak on. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir, I can speak on behalf of the military at this moment. Even though it's legal in some states, regardless, the military all the way around, you must be clean. You must be clear of it. Initially, when you come in, that's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a urinalysis. You're going to take a drug test. I tell soldiers all the time, if you're having a problem with it, seek help. Seek help. And the military is at the point now where they realize they're not so far behind the times. They realize, okay, this is recreational. It's a lot of states are now legalizing this. So what the military has done, once you get in and you're clear and you have that problem, they'll send you to counseling, send you to help. So it's not as much of a harsh treatment as it used to be back in the past. But initially, yes, you are required to pass a drug screening, and randomly throughout your career, you will receive those random drug testing and those random drug screenings. So it still is required to pass a drug test. No matter what state you come from, whether it's legal in that state or not, with the military, you must pass that test regardless.
Okay, thank you. I got another question from the audience. We have mentees from the 100 Black Men of Augusta, which range from 8 to 15 years old. What advice do you have for mentees on the call to support them with career selection? What kind of career should they be selecting, and the importance of education? So we have some young folks on the line. So who would like to, and Dr. Middleton, since you're in education, why don't you pick that one up?
Yes, sir. One thing I definitely would like to mention to the mentees is first you need to find out what inspires you. What do you enjoy doing? Even in middle school, I'm an administrator for grades kindergarten through 8th grade. right now I'm trying to still them what do you like? What like to do? You what because at the end, a career is something that you enjoy doing. I enjoy being an educator. That's my life. I enjoy what I do every day. So once you find out exactly what you're doing, begin to research. Begin to research. Identify some individuals that can mentor you currently in that position, and then begin to research exactly what's the qualifications, what do you need in order to get to that position. Now in middle school and elementary school and high school, sometimes we may think that our performance there does not matter when you get to college. In actuality, that's where it really matters at. If you're really trying to get scholarships and stuff for sometimes employers go back and look at those areas to find out exactly how were you in high school? How were you in middle school? Were you a plus student? Did you have any disciplinary referrals? Because that's very important when selecting an individual for a position. So your middle school, your high school years actually counts. It really means a lot to employers, even colleges as well. So making sure that you really do conduct the research. I cannot say that enough. Research and make sure whatever you select, you enjoy what you do. And if you enjoy what you do, you'll probably even do it for free.
Exactly. I can add a point to that. It's important to marry what you enjoy and what you're good at.
Right.
Put those two things together. My background, for example, early on, I was good at math and science. Everybody said, you're going to be an engineer. I went to Michigan State University, mechanical engineering, great. Never wanted to be an engineer. I was good at math and science. And so I knew that that would open doors for me. And so figure out what is good that you do well. And the biggest thing for young people is remember, it's not forever, it's for now. Yeah, my background is mechanical engineering. I also have an MBA in marketing. I also went to seminary. So I've gone from studying science to studying business to studying God. It's totally different. It doesn't mean it's forever. It just means it's for now. Pick which and understand that the average person changes their major 3 times.
That's right.
Don't be upset that if you start in engineering mechanical and you go electrical, fine. The average person does that 3 times. So be prepared for that. But marry find your passion and find what you're good at and put those two together.
And Dr. Lawrence, if I could add to that,
Sure.
that's some great stuff that's coming out here. And also consider maybe doing a informational interview where you can take somebody like one of the panelists here and just talk to them, whether it's virtually, whether it's by phone, and talk to them about what they do and why do you love what you do? How did you get into what you do? What advice would you give someone like myself? And then in some cases, maybe even consider doing a job shadow. Now, I know right now we're separated by the pandemic, but hopefully things will change with the vaccine. But maybe you can do a job shadow where maybe a half a day or on a Saturday, you can get introduced and see what is life like in the day of a professional who is doing what you believe you would love to do. And that goes a long way.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And we got about 12 minutes left. I got another question from the Q&A from Dr. Stacy Lee. Her question is, does clothes matter anymore in getting a job? I guess she's really talking about, you guys know what she's talking about, so I'll let you talk about that dress. We most certainly, I think the only person that really dressed today, Anthony, with a shirt and tie on, but it's a casual day for us, but we really don't dress. We wouldn't be dressing like this if we were out to get an interview.
Right.
That's for sure. But go ahead. I'll let Holland, I'll let you handle it first, and then we'll go to Calvin.
Yeah, and what I would say, it just depends on the opportunity, what you're doing. If you are going in for an interview, definitely dress does make a difference. I always say, you've heard the old saying, dress to impress. Now, it in some ways, it does depend on the industry, but here's what I always say. If you go dress business professional, you just can't go wrong. The worst they can say about you is, wow, you look nice. And first impressions are lasting impressions. You don't, in many cases, get a chance to do a do-over. So I would say, yeah, when you go, put your best foot forward. Now, you can do some research. You can go and research certain industries like tech industries, some of your startup companies, they may be more business casual in their dress in terms of for the interview or what that culture is like. One of the things that you can do is that if it is for an interview and you're just not sure, you can always reach out to the company or organization and let them know, hey, I'm scheduled for an interview on this coming Friday. I just want to confirm the time, the location, and also I just want to make sure about the dress, that I was planning to come dressed business professional or business casual, or even in some instances, smart casual. So, but I would just say the short end of it is that, yes, I would give attention and some thought about dress, depending on what the situation is.
And as Anthony says, if you come in and you're overdressed, the worst thing I can say is you look good. But I've actually come in overdressed, and then just to show that I understood their culture, pulled the tie off, stuck it in my pocket, and looked just like they did at that point in time. And they appreciated that I accommodated and fit the way they were. So you can always come from being too dressed down, but you can't do it the other way.
That's
I got a very, very interesting question from the farmers, Jaden and Terrence Farmer. And I think this is one that really kind of touches at some things that since all of us on this call are African Americans, I want you to, each one of you to kind of respond to this one. Regarding college education for African American young people, do you recommend attending a HBCU or a larger, more predominantly white school in order to be considered for positions that are typically managed by white individuals? I think that's a very interesting question, and I'd like each one of you to respond to that question.
Start, sir.
You go ahead.
That's okay. Oh, yes, sir. I just had a situation like that happen here recently, and I can say, sad to say, that it does matter. But from my perspective, education is education, regardless, and that's something they can't take away from you. But if the societies that we live in, I can say that it does matter. I was just faced with a situation where I had a kid come in and at Augusta State University, and he made the comment, well, my parents went to Savannah State, and I seen how hard it was for them to get a job based upon the actual school and college that they went to. And then he was like, I was considering going to Payne University. I want to go to Payne, but their accreditation is on and off. And so we had a conversation. I just told me, I hate that we're living in a society. With me being young, I also understand at the same time, I hate we're living in those times. But I would say that it does matter and it is frowned upon from my perspective.
Robert?
I look at it this way. What is it that you want to do? Because your passion's going to show. You can see my passion. You know the things that excite me, and it's going to show. So be true to who you are. Go where you want to go. That's my advice. And for most of us, we're at a point now where it's typically not just a 4-year degree anymore. Most of us are carrying multiple degrees. I've got three master's degrees now. That's typical. So keep in mind that you can also blend it. I've got a Michigan State University, but I can also put Xavier University and Liberty University behind that as well. So keep in mind, A, be true to your passion, number one, and B, understand that at this point in time, most of us are going to have multiple degrees now. So there's another way around that as well.
Yeah. Well,
I'm a piggy. Go ahead.
No, sir, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Doc.
I'm gonna piggyback off of him as well. I believe that because I got my degree from Augusta State, four of my degrees, came from Augusta State University, not necessarily HBCU, but I had passion for what I like to do. I showed my passion. So when I interviewed for the position that I'm currently in, they saw the passion. So if you have that passion, it does not matter what school you go to. Sell yourself and let them know that you're the guy for the man or woman for the job.
Go ahead.
I was going to add that although I lean towards HBCUs simply because my child went to an HBCU, and if you ever go to Howard University, there's a building there with my name on it because it costs so much for her to go to that school. But I'm a product of the military. And as I said, when I joined the Army, I didn't have a high school diploma. I've gone to 8 different colleges in order to get the degrees that I have. Yes, it does matter when you're sitting in a room and the decision makers get to clicking their class rings. West Pointers, again from the military, I'd see West Pointers would side up with West Pointers. When you're talking about different law schools, people want to go to Princeton and Harvard, where there are HBCUs that have just as um, prestigious degrees. The world is changing. The vice president is a Howard grad. The senator from Georgia is a Morehouse grad. So people now are starting to learn about learn about these schools, these HBCUs, simply because now people of prominence are graduating from them. I remember a lawyer from Tennessee saying that once that he admired lawyers from Princeton and Harvard. He hired a whole bunch of them to work for his law firm, but he owned the law firm and he was a graduate of an HBCU in Tennessee.
Well, let me just piggyback on this because as a moderator, maybe I shouldn't say anything, but I'm a graduate of HBCU, and my last job in corporate America, I ran a $1.2 billion business. I had 2,650 employees, and I traveled on a corporate jet every day with a pilot and a co-pilot, and I'm a graduate of a HBCU with a degree in electrical engineering. And I ran engineering for Xerox, by the way, for quite a few years. So your point is well taken. Naturally, I've never gone to historically a white school, and I've hired several engineers and managers from white schools, and it really doesn't matter. The education is good wherever you go. You have to just apply yourself, and I'll leave it at that.
No, Thomas, I wonder if I could just add one thing there. I know we're right at the end, but this is a great question. You know, I would definitely agree with most of the panelists. You know, it is really, you can never get away from bias.
Right.
You're always going to have some people who are out there, and that's just life. But ultimately, what I believe happens is that any organization really is going to look at you, the candidate, and what you're bringing to the table. Most companies want to be successful, and they want on the team whoever's going to help them achieve that. And so I think that if you get there and you shine and you let them see who you are and the transferable skills and what you are bringing to the table, then I think that where you went to school, whether it's an HBCU, whether is not going to make that much of a difference to a person who is really focused on, I'm trying to build a team that's going to be effective.
That's true.
So if I went to a historical Black college, I don't know that I would want to work for a company that's going to concern, because I'm going to be me, okay? And I don't know if I want to be a part of a company that has issues with that. Always remember, it's a two-way street. When you're looking at a company, they're looking at you, but you're also looking at them. So it's all about keeping it real.
Absolutely. Let me suggest now, Chill, would you go ahead and send out the surveys? Because this is going to be in the wrap-up section. All attendees, would you go to your system? You can still listen to us, but we're going to send out the survey. Let me say that you have to complete the survey in order to qualify for the gifts I mentioned. So we're going to start with a wrap-up, but during the wrap-up, you can start filling out the survey. The survey must be completed, and after that, I will announce the winners. So we can start with you, Mr. Fisher. Why don't you kind of wrap us up, and we'll go around the room.
Okay. Well, first of all, again, I thank you guys for joining in today. The fact that you're here puts you light years ahead of other folks that aren't investing in themselves on a Saturday morning. You hear my passion, that you know what's important. And the answer is just be true to yourself. You are who you are. Don't try to be anybody else. You're the best you can ever be. And I'd leave you with one thought. As you're interviewing and as you're talking to folks, constantly say in your mind, wait, W-A-I-T. And it stands for why am I talking? Because some folks get nervous and just start rambling. Don't be one of those. The way to solve that is simply in your mind, ask yourself, wait, why am I talking? And think about that as you're talking. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Mr. Holland?
Yeah, again, I want to thank everyone for just allowing me to be a part of this. This was absolutely awesome. I think that the panelists were awesome and just shared some great information. I would just say to our listening audience, information is only as good as you taking it and applying it. And so I would just really encourage you to take some time, think about the things that were shared here today, and begin to think about how you want to incorporate and apply these things in your life, because they do make a difference. Every person who is on this panel, we have applied the things that we're sharing with you. We're not just telling you stuff that we ourselves have not done. And so we're living proof that it works if you work it. So again, thank you. And we know that all of you are going to be extremely successful.
Okay, Sergeant Johnson?
Hey, I'm just grateful to be on the panel with all this vast of knowledge. If I had one thing I would like to say and just give it some advice is always be a sponge. Always be open into learning, to listening, and be adaptive. If you're interested, if the military is on your radar and you're interested, not even going full time, but you want to go to school, you want the college, just give me a call. I'll put my email address out on the screen or in the chat line.
Yeah, they will
And
get
like
it.
I said, okay, and like
They
I
will get
said,
your email.
we pay 100% college tuition, so you get the best of both worlds. You get the military, and you want to go to school. There's lots of benefits, and I'll be more than welcome and more than glad to share any information, give information you need. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Dr. Middleton?
Yes, sir. I must again commend you all for inviting me onto this panel and the great work that you all are doing for our CSRA, just trying to get our mentees and our youth, as well as adults, equipped and ready for the workforce ahead. But one thing I will say to let you all know, education is very important. Everybody's not a 4-year person. Everybody may not be a 2-year person. So it's okay, but making sure that you understand that you get the necessary training that you need in order to meet the needs of that particular job. If it's a no, it's okay. A no does not mean you're denied. It's not just your right time or that right season for you. So just wait and continue to work on yourself to make yourself even better. So I'm gonna leave you with a quote that I always say. I want you to always remember to move on purpose with a purpose.
Calvin?
Well, again, thank everybody so much for being on this morning, because I know Saturday morning is a very hard time for people to give up. Just 3 quick things. When you're doing, if you make it to the interview, ask for the job. At the end of the interview, ask for the job. If you really want that job, ask for the job. Ask questions about the job. Don't ask about the money. You should already know that. But ask about the work situation and the benefits and the things that the type of things you may encounter. And lastly, once you get the job, work that job hard. Make them love you. If they love you, you can find that there are some things in a position will be the next, it can turn out to be the next step to another all different position that you had never even thought about. But you've got to, once you get the job, you've got to work that job, because you've invested your time, they've invested their time in you. Work the job.
Thank you for that, Laurel. I was just trying to get a reading on how many of the surveys. We got about half the surveys filled out, so we're gonna wait. Let me, on behalf of the 100 Black Men of Augusta, let me thank the panelists for your participation. You all were outstanding, and we really appreciate all your input. I'd also like to thank, special thanks to my teammates. My team members were Brother Chill, Calvin Thomas, Al Williams, Victor Wheeler, and also Dr. Don Quarles. They were very instrumental in us putting this together. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, IKEA. Through the IKEA grant, we were able to do this. And so we have other seminars, by the way, that we will be conducting in the March timeframe on voter registration and voter rights. So that's one of the other things that we're going to be focusing on. I don't know whether you all were familiar with the fact that we had a session on Thursday with the police chiefs and sheriffs, and that had to do with violence and community policing. And so as 100 Black Men, we were involved in the community. We will continue to do these things to help foster a good relationship and communication with our community. With that, we can't close it out because I have to announce, if you guys don't mind, just hang on for a minute. Brother Chill is counting up the surveys, and we're going to pick winners, and I'll announce the winners in just a few minutes. He said give him a few more minutes to tally up and I'll announce the winners. Oh, and let me also apologize. We had a total of 12 questions. We just couldn't get to all the questions. I think we got to about 6 of them. But because you're going to have everybody's email address, the panelists' email address, you most certainly can send the questions to the panelists. You heard their background, so you can most certainly, the questions, we couldn't get to all of them. So if you have questions, like Sergeant Johnson said, you most certainly have the panelists' email address, and you can go ahead and send those questions to them, and I'm sure they will communicate back to you and answer some of your questions. We apologize for not being able to answer all of the questions today. In fact, now we have 13, so the questions are still coming in.
So Dr. Lawrence, do you need the panelists to stay on?
No, we don't. No, we don't. The panelists, that's right. I just realized the panelists can really leave because the panelists not going, hold on. It's in the chat room.
Yeah, and
hold
one
on.
thing, just for our panelists, I know we had a couple requests for contact information. So if you feel comfortable, I know that would really be a benefit to some of our mentees and collegiate, for them to feel like they have somebody to contact. So if you feel comfortable, if you would just put your name and email address or contact number in the chat, and let all the attendees see it and write it down. I think that will be awesome as well. And we can't forget also special thanks to our collegiate 100 of Augusta. They're logged on today, as well as thank you to our advisor for the Collegiate 100, Professor Baxter Lee. So thank you for being on as well. So thank you. And Dr. Lawrence, you should have those names now.
I don't have them. I'm in the chat room. And could you just go ahead and since I don't have them, can you just go ahead on and announce them? I'll make a note of it.
Sure, it would be my pleasure. Give me 1 minute. All right, so and I have the names. You tell me how you want to go about giving away the prizes. I know number one. I don't know what the number one prize is.
Oh, number one prize would be, well, we'll start with the gift certificates first, the gift cards.
Gotcha.
So we got 4 gift cards. So tell me who the 4 gift card winners are.
We have Ebony Lyons. We have Davion Manley.
Davion.
Manley. We have Bryce Jones.
Okay.
and Darius Landers.
Oh,
Darius Landris.
Landers.
Okay. Okay. You heard your names. Those 4 people will receive gift certificates, gift cards. We have your email address. We have your address, so we will send you all the gift cards. Now, who is the winner of the 55-inch flat screen TV?
That will be Kingston Smith.
Okay.
So
Ki-
Kingston Smith, congratulations.
wow.
Yeah, and then we'll be contacting all the winners. We'll be giving you a call on Monday to get any additional information and make sure that we get this stuff to you.
Okay. And then the crescendo is the PlayStation 5.
Look, can we get some type of drum roll or something like that?
Yeah, we got a drum roll on this one.
Drum
Yeah.
roll.
Drum
All right,
roll.
drum roll. Our final name and winner of the PlayStation 5, Nicholas Rainey.
Wow.
Nicholas Rainey.
Okay. Congratulations to the winners. Again, as Brother Chill said, we are just so excited for you, and we'll be getting in contact with you to make sure you get your prizes. Miss Ebony Lyons, Davion Manley, Bruce Jones, Darius Lander, Kingston Smith, and Nicholas Rainey. Congratulations. You all be safe. Thank you for participating, and have a nice rest of the day and be safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go out there and be great. Be great.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.